Hey, Mean Matt here. So, I guess I was right. It was at the Trump Plaza that WrestleMania 4 and 5 took place. Um, it now I guess goes now by a different name. So, anyways, we're on to WrestleMania 5 this time. Macho Man Randy Savage turned his back on Hogan and thus becoming a heel. Um, Became WWF champion at WrestleMania 4, so begins the saga of Hogan getting his revenge on Savage. And in the main event for WrestleMania 5, we have Hogan versus the Macho Man Randy Savage. But before we get to that, let's go on to WrestleMania 5. So we get Hercules versus King Haku with Bobby the Brain Heenan. So King Haku is, I think, is when he beat Harley Race, as I probably mentioned before that, and would later go on to face Randy Savage. Anyways, Hercules won this match, so there is that. It was a pretty good match. Then we have the Twin Towers, which was Akeem, former one man gang, and the Big Boss Man. When I was watching wrestling in the beginning, Big Boss Man was obviously a singles competitor. At this point, he sported a weird 80s haircut and, yeah, was a part of a tag team. Still the coked up, excitable man that he was. And it's unfortunate that he's gone. And, he was a good wrestler. Unfortunately, another one of those guys that did never have the opportunity to win the Intercontinental Championship or the WWF Championship, but did, however, win the Hardcore Championship, and I think it was Tag Team Champions with Ken Shamrock in the late 90s. So, anyhow, yes, they went up against the Rockers, Shawn Michaels, Marty, Jannetty, and beat them. So, there's that. Obviously, I figured that would happen. It was, I've seen this WrestleMania a long time ago, so it's kind of hard to remember most of it, but yeah, I mean, this was a no brainer. Then we had Brutus Barbie Beefcake versus Ted DiBiase, and it ended in double disqualification. This Brutus Beefcake, it was a very cool match. I'm not sure. No, this can't be the point where. No, I don't think this is the point where Virgil um, became a face. No, it wasn't. So, okay. Well, I don't know why I thought that. Anyways, yeah, it ended in no, or it ended in double countout. So, I always hate those. You go to a wrestling event, you expect action and a winner, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen even at WrestleMania. Then we get the Bushwhackers versus the Fabulous Rougeaus brothers with Jimmy Hart. This is when they became the American Sympathizer team. The Quebecers becoming the American Sympathizers. Yeah. So they dressed up and they had a theme song in French, but of course it was really bad mouthing America. um, Pretty funny. Anyways, the Bushwhackers won, and yeah, that was a good match. I enjoy them both. Bushwhackers were always an awesome tag team. Unfortunately, I think it's Butch that has. I don't know what happened to him, but he came out in the Hall of Fame. He looks a lot shorter, and he's on stilts. Then we have Mr. Perfect versus the Blue Blazer, Blue Blazer, obviously, is Owen Hart. This is Owen Hart's first WrestleMania, as is Mr. Perfect. So, it was an interesting match for the both of them in their debut at WrestleMania. I was actually surprised as a kid to see that the Blue Blazer, well, not a kid, a teenager, just to see the Blue Blazer as, you know, when he started out back in '89. I mean, I know Owen Hart now wrestled at the Stampede in the '80s, but I really didn't know that. I thought he just started with High Energy, but no, it was actually as the Blue Blazer. So, anyhow, Mr. Perfect won, and a good match, a good debut for the both of them. Then we get a handicap match for the Tag Team Championship. Demolition as the champions took on the Powers of Pain, Warlord, and Barbarian. It says handicap match. I'm not sure why. Oh, and Mr. Fuji, okay. So, Demolition retained their titles. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I didn't say Mr. Fuji there. Well, he used to be a wrestler in the '70s, which of course I found out later on. When I started watching wrestling, he was with the Berserker. Anyhow, then we had Dino Bravo with Frenchy Martin defeating Ronnie Garvin. Dino Bravo from Quebec, Ronnie Garvin from Alberta. A good Canadian match. Rugged Ronnie Garvin is a legend in the business, but this was Dino Bravo's night. Then we get the Brain Busters versus the Strike Force. Brain Busters, Tully Blanchard, and Arn Anderson of the Four Horsemen, you know. So it's funny how, you know, they came into the WWF before Ric Flair. It's just kind of cool to see that, you know. And they won the match. I don't know, I just... outsiders coming into the... Outsiders before the actual outsiders, if you will. Jake Roberts defeated André the Giant in a disqualification. Everyone knew that André was afraid of snakes, and this was Damien, who was let out of the bag, and that's how the disqualification happened. So, it was basically, you know, Jake Roberts who won this match. Well, then we have the Hart Foundation versus Rhythm and Blues, the Honky Tonk Man, and Great Valentine with Jimmy Hart. Always a fan of the Hart Foundation. And they won this match, you know, it was very cool, you know. The Hart Foundation were a cool tag team for their time. And, you know, Bret Hart going off on his own eventually, 2 years later, you know, I was always a big fan of his. And I would never saw him in the WCW that much, but it was a shame because knowing that I was for WWF, I never really had the mind to see him in WCW. And for what it's worth, he didn't really have a good run in WCW that much. He had the World Championship, he had the United States Championship, but it wasn't, you know, and it wasn't really the Bret Hart that everybody knew, from what I have been hearing from other wrestlers and Eric Bischoff. Then we have Rick Rude defeating Ultimate Warrior and becoming the Intercontinental Champion. Now, this was interesting because in the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, or the roast of the Ultimate Warrior in 2005. Bobby Heenan tells a story where after the match, because he had helped Rick Rude win this match, there was a point where he was in the ring and Warrior picked him up and threw him down, and I guess didn't care about where he was or how he did it. I don't know what that means, but I guess it wasn't very good. You know, it's unfortunate that we lost the Warrior when we did, you know. He just made amends, became the member of the Hall of Fame, did a thing on Monday Night Raw, and then that was it. You know, it's a shame, but he made amends at least with a lot of wrestlers, and with Bobby Heenan in the way he is right now, and I know it's rude to say, but I'm surprised that he's still alive. So anyway, this was a good match. Obviously, Warrior will get the title back at SummerSlam, and that's good. Jim Duggan defeated Bad News Brown, and that also ended in a double disqualification. You know, to me, those are just a waste of time. I hate it. I really fucking hate double disqualification. I hate double disqualifications. I hate double countouts. But you gotta follow the rules, I guess. And then we got to the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, who defeated who defeated Bobby Heenan. Oh, I didn't see that one. With Brooklyn Brawler by his side. Not sure how that match came about. And sometimes I think the gimmicks that these people get is just ridiculous. Terry Taylor eventually came back in the mid-90s, and or the early to mid-90s, you know, as himself. I don't know how he would have, you know, pulled that off as the Red Rooster, but it was a silly gimmick. But yeah, he beat Bobby Heenan in this case. Then we get to the main event. Well, before that, let's talk about what happened in the middle of WrestleMania. So, we had what was going to be a mock of Piper's Pit. So, it was Brother Love who came out in a kilt, in a white shirt like Roddy Piper, and he was talking and stuff. And Bruce Pritchard, speaking of gimmicks, you know, Bruce Pritchard was always funny in that case. You know, unlike the rest. Anyway, so he starts talking, and then we get the return of Roddy Piper in Piper's Pit. So that happens, and we get Piper doing his thing with the surprise guest, yeah, I guess you could say surprise guest. I can't remember, is Martin Downey Jr.? Oh no, just Martin Downey. Okay. So he comes out and they shoot the shit for a little bit. Martin Downey, who smokes a lot of cigarettes and likes to trade insults and shit, so he blows smoke in Roddy Piper's face a few times, and you got the, I told you once, don't blow no more smoke in my face. And so he does, and then Piper goes, well, you know, give me the smoke and whatever. And so, as Martin Downey goes to get a cigarette, Piper gets a fire extinguisher. And he's like, give me that smoke, would ya? So he blows the smoke, and Martin's face, and he falls down. Piper goes to hit him, blah, blah, blah. So, in hindsight, Roddy Piper's back in WWE, or WWF, whatever. Anyway, so now let's go to the main event. It was a good segment. So the main event, Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man Randy Savage for the WWF Championship. I told you yesterday that last WrestleMania was when Savage captured the WWF Championship. And then eventually went to have him feud with Hogan after the incident in Saturday Night Main Event when Hogan had carried Elizabeth after she was knocked off the apron, hence having Savage lose the match to, I can't remember who it was. So, yeah, apparently that was, the starting of Macho Man becoming a heel. Okay, so now we have the match, and it was a really good match actually. Elizabeth came down first, and yeah, so as we all know, Hogan won, and Elizabeth celebrated with him. So yeah, another one for Hulk Hogan. Like I said before, people give a lot of flack to Triple H, that kind of stuff for burying people. This isn't burying people nonetheless, but the fact that Hogan seems to hog the spotlight a lot in the main event, whether he's wrestling or he's not, that's how it is. So, yeah, Hogan won this match and did that. Overall, this was a good show. Again, this was a nice setup for WrestleMania. Something that I wish they would continue, but somehow it doesn't seem to happen that way anymore. And, yeah. So, next year will be awesome. I can't wait to do that. But anyways, that's it for me. Bye.